Even after moving to play in Saudi Arabia in the winter, 38-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo failed to impress. We were certain that the third top scorer of the Premier League from a year ago would show complete dominance in the weak Middle Eastern Championship. But that was far from what happened. When Cristiano arrived at Al Nassr, the club was in the first place. The Portuguese started well, scoring poker and a hat-trick in the first 5 games. But Ronaldo's toxicity quickly became apparent. Faced with the first difficulties, the player became nervous, blamed his teammates, and according to media, essentially fired coach Rudi Garcia, but didn't give the team or the entire championship what was expected of him. Cristiano scored only 6 times in the next 11 games. The club missed out on gold medals, and Ronaldo also got involved in several image scandals, losing his temper and making inappropriate gestures to fans. Lots of people have already talked several times about Ronaldo's unsuccessful season in the context of his performance for the national team at the World Cup and for Manchester United, and now his unsuccessful start in Saudi Arabia. This year is definitely the worst in Cristiano's career, and the Portuguese was supposed to top our traditional list, but we'll give the deserving retiree a break, and we don't want to repeat ourselves. But we won't take it easy on the young stars. This is the top 10 worst players of the 2022-23 season. Many disappointed. In 10th place are 2 players who were recently seen as the future of world football, Giovanni Reina and Houssem Aouar. The first one was often mentioned in the same context as his Dortmund teammate Jude Bellingham, as a young super talent, but as much as Jude progressed in the past season, Giovanni regressed just as much. We previously reported how Reina was accused of poor attitude towards training during the World Cup, and his parents criticized the coach of the US national team for not trusting the young player. However, the club season only confirmed the decision of the coach. Gio simply underperformed, and it was his exact fault. At the age of 18, Reina was a confident starter for Dortmund. Now he has no place in the starting lineup. He played a meager 612 minutes this season. If Reina didn't already have a serious background in the top level of football, then 20 years old, coming off as a sub, 7+2 in the league would have looked like a decent outcome. But damn, top clubs were hunting for him. His price tag was over 40 million, and now he's rapidly decreasing in value, and the queue for him somehow disappeared. Aouar was also up until recently in the young and very promising category. He was included in the symbolic Champions League season team, securing nearly 20 points for goals and assists in the national championship, was among the best in the French league for shots and progressive passes, passes into the final third, penetrating passes, actions leading to shots and goals. A truly creative central midfielder, and with the shot too. The president said that Barcelona, Liverpool and Juventus were interested in Aouar, and the club boss refused to sell the player to Arsenal for 35 million. After all, Aouar's estimated value was around 55. Aouar didn't have any serious injuries that could have stopped his progress, unlike Reina, whose last season was rather unstable due to health issues. But the Frenchman had an immense regression, and he's often not even brought on as a substitute now. Transfermarkt now values him at a modest 15 million euros. Where did his best qualities go? Aouar even decided to change his sports citizenship and play for Algeria, supposedly remember his roots, although it's clear that with his current level of football, he simply won't make it into the French national team. The most important thing is that Lyon's former star player is no longer needed by the club. He has joined AC Roma as a free agent. Well, let's hope that he will seize the chance to revive his career and get back on track. For place number 9, we have Dusan Vlahovic. He finished 2021 season as the 7th top scorer in the world at club level. According to his former teammate, the young striker was upset that he missed out on beating Ronaldo's best result for a calendar year in Serie A by just 1 goal. In early 2022, Vlahovic arrived in Turin as one of the most effective strikers in the world. At the time, it seemed that Juve had not wasted money by giving the young Serbian the highest salary in Serie A, making him one of the most expensive players in the history of the league. Even without a clear attacking game from the team, the newcomer found moments and made decisions. However, This season has made it clear that Juve's style of play doesn't suit Vlahovic, and he hasn't been able to change himself. Juve plays slowly, relies heavily on crosses, and Vlahovic, though tall, is not as strong in aerial duels. 39% of won aerials in Serie A and only one header goal. Vlahovic missed almost 3 months due to health problems, but it cannot be said that this had a fatal effect on his form. Vlahovic had a very poor World Cup in Qatar, even losing his place in the national team where he is one of the leaders. In Juventus, in the second half of the season, the Serbian had a run without goals from play that lasted for 2.5 months. 3 goals in May allowed him to crawl out to a more or less satisfactory goal-scoring level, but still, 10 points in Serie A and 14 in all tournaments are very little for a man who was planned to be Juve's main striker. Vlahovic is a forward with a narrow function. His main weapon is a precise left foot shot. There are few players who hit with their left as often as he does, but instead of bringing Dusan into a striking position, giving him the right foot, Allegri tries to squeeze tactical benefits out of the player that cannot be squeezed out even with all his desire. The blame for Vlahovic's failures lies with the coaching staff. Rumors of Vlahovic's sale were already circulating in the winter, and now there are more of them. Chelsea, Bayern Munich, Man United and Newcastle are among the contenders. Obviously, the 22-year-old forward didn't disappoint those who believe they know how to use him correctly. If he finds his team, we can expect the return of the same Vlahovic who was upset that he couldn't beat Ronaldo's achievement, but this season is better be forgotten. In 8th place is Adama Traoré and the Wolves forwards. The Wolves have become the lowest scoring team in the league, scoring even fewer goals than the bottom place Southampton. This is strange because the team has a decent attacking lineup, at least on paper. The central strikers include Diego Costa, whose name seems to be all that's left of him, Raúl Jiménez, who had the worst season in the Premier League, and Mateus Cunha, who was apparently loaned from Atletico just for a couple of goals. The wingers are Pablo Sarabia, ending the season with just 1 goal, Gonzalo Guedes, and the well-known player on the position, Adama Traoré, who we will discuss in more detail. Traoré was long considered one of Europe's top talents. In terms of dribbling efficiency, the Spanish winger competed with the biggest stars. He was also the most muscular one. Do you remember how everyone admired him in 2020? His combination of power and excellent technique made Traoré one of the brightest players in the Premier League. There were weaker seasons, but the guy still occasionally made excellent passes, even catching the attention of Barcelona, who took him on a loan for half a season last year. But what about now? The guy is already 27, and this season he isn't even showing his trademark qualities. How could he have forgotten how to dribble so suddenly? Just look at how much the success rate of his dribbling has dropped, from 70 to 80% to 45%. How can this be explained? What can he offer the fans and coaching staff now? Despite all this, the winger still has the trust of the team, having played 34 games in the current Premier League season, but with no effectiveness. According to ESPN, Traoré may soon move to the Saudi Arabia League. If it all ends like this, it will be one of the most epic stories of unrealized talent. Position number 7. Here are 2 players from Barca, Ansu Fati and Ferran Torres. We were wrong about Fati before this season. We predicted that he would avoid injuries and finally blow up, but Ansu was able to play in all matches only with rare exceptions and was disappointing, especially considering that he is the team's 3rd highest paid player and is expected, given his level of talent, to reach Messi's level. When my son is finally 100% healthy, they don't want to see him in the starting lineup. How is that possible? Ansu couldn't have forgotten how to play football, said the player's father in disbelief. However, it's clear not only to Xavi, but also to the average viewer that Fati has lost his confidence. It's noticeable in how he moves and shoots. Sometimes Ansu seems to have problems with coordination. Well, such a talented player couldn't simply forget how to receive the ball, so obviously all the problems are in his head. I dare to suggest that it's due to psychological consequences of the numerous injuries that plagued the young player for 2 years. At the beginning of this season, there was an insight that Xavi is forced to constantly talk to Ansu, and he even hired a personal therapist because he is considered about the long-term consequences of injuries sustained early in his career. This is a well-known phenomenon. Anyone who has seriously injured then feels fear and subconsciously protects themselves. But at the top level, it's impossible to be so cautious and restrained. Overcoming them in the conditions of Barcelona, when instant results are expected of you, is extremely difficult. It seems that Ansu needs to change the team and recover mentally first. Perhaps we have already lost one of the main talents of the generation. Transfer experts believe in the guy less and less, and his value has dropped from 80 to 35 million. As for Torres, everything is simple here. This player is not even at the level of Barcelona, a complete failure of the club's management, who decided to pay 55 million euros for Varane. The transfer fee surprised everyone at the time. But they thought, okay, obviously the scouts and coaching staff see something in the player that ordinary viewers don't. But now it's clear to everyone, the management just made a mistake. The winger turned out not to be of that level. He can be incorporated into the system to perform a certain function, and that's not at the top level. A winger who ranks only 14th in the team for actions leading to goal per 90 minutes and only 16th for the percentage of successful dribbles. Well, it's clear, such a player shouldn't play for Barcelona if it strives for new greatness. I think this season is the last for Varane, not only in Barca, but also in the big club in general. Sixth is Digne. Not long ago, he regularly played for the French national team. He became the best crosser into the penalty area in the Premier League last season. He provided 7 assists in the most competitive national championship. His price tag was around 35 million. But now the Frenchman is not the same. Although he's only 29, even for his energy-intense position, he's not old. Judging by the assist stats, Luka began to decline as early as last season, but this is a superficial look. Let's look at the advanced statistics. After moving to Aston Villa, the French left-back showed his best career figures for actions leading to shots at 90 minutes. His failure this season is all the more striking, a decrease of more than 2 times. If we take all crosses, not only those leading to shots, but the same picture also emerges. Half of the 2021-22 season in Aston Villa, the figure is at its best level in his career. This season, a significant decline. Digne missed the call-up for the World Cup, although he played 1 full game and came on as a sub in the last Euro. In the second half of the current season, he began to lose competition to Alex Moreno, who is not even a star and who Villa acquired in January. Emery realized that the position of left-back needed to be strengthened. If before the start of the Premier League season, Digne was more of a promising player, well, I could imagine him finally shining in a big club, then now he's obviously a player for average and below average teams. Place number 5. Here we picked Heung-Min and Lucas Moura. Spurs like the Wolves is a failure team this season. Many players in the Spurs squad could be graded negatively, but we chose the Korean and the Brazilian. First, let's talk briefly about Moura. The winger used to be such a good workhorse, helping in different aspects of the team play, and he would also have times of brilliance at the level of a superstar, as he did once in the Champions League semi-final with Ajax. But this season, Lucas played more for the youth team than for the first one. We think that the player felt that the club had no faith in him and lost any motivation. Just recently, the fans adored him, but now the club's management is showing through all their actions that he is not needed. How else to explain that over a couple of seasons, Kulusevski, Richarlison, Danjuma, Perisic and Young Hill have become your competitors? And this is despite the fact that 2 attacking positions are usually reserved for Kane and Son. There was simply no playing time left for the Brazilian. Anyone would have given up in his place. As a result, at 30, Moura has had the worst season of his career. As for Son, he has been one of the main players not only for Tottenham, but for the entire Premier League in recent years, and now he has had the worst season in London, if we don't count his debut one in England, when he needed time to adapt. 10+6 is a good result, but the Korean has accustomed us to much better, and he has become a hostage to his extended overperformance. Now much of the responsibility for the club's failure is placed on him. Much less is questioned regarding Kane. He fulfilled his optimistic plan for scoring. Son, on the other hand, only occasionally showed his abilities and didn't carry the team. The Korean has returned into an ordinary player of a mid-table team and even was losing his place in the starting 11 at times. The reason for the failure largely lies in Tottenham's problems. Previously, the team had a better counter-attack and well-established mechanisms were in place. Spurs had a signature two-pass transition from defense, but it all fell apart this season. Son plays less with the ball at speed, leading to an overuse of long-range strikes. The player received the ball less frequently in convenient positions and simply took shots from distance. But even that didn't work out. If in previous seasons, Son had accustomed us to amazing goals from long range, how many goals from direct long-range strikes do you think he has scored in the Premier League this season? Only one, against Leicester. After that, he stopped scoring from distance, and this didn't add to his confidence. The percentage of his successful dribbles also dropped significantly, and moving the ball forward is no longer so effective. In general, this isn't Son that we are used to. He too understands and is worried about it. I couldn't help the team and I feel responsible as he left the club. He surely has great ability and experience as a coach, and I'm sure he will have great success in his other career, was the Korean's reaction to Conte's firing. Well, as for human qualities, Son still remains a top player. For place number 4, we also picked two lads, both from Leicester, Youri Tielemans and Wilfried Ndidi. The team was fighting to stay in the Prem the entire season, and its main stars also had a downgrade. Where is the cause? Where is the effect? Let's get into it. The Leicester management delayed updating the squad, which is the main reason why the club was relegated. With the same leaders and the same coach, you can perform well and compete for some time, but then suddenly find yourself at the bottom. Simply because when nothing changes, the team stagnates and the leaders lose motivation, especially when they miss out on the Champions League for 2 seasons in a row. We all clearly saw this in the face of Leicester. And it seems the intentions of the team's management were correct, not to let go of the leaders, but there was no desired result, nor were the top transfers, and this led to the degradation of the team. Tielemans had his worst season in the Premier League according to WhoScored's average rating, and with the big gap, the worst in expected goals without penalties. The Belgian is a top club level creative player, not a team fighting for survival. It's not surprising that there are many questions about his motivation this season. It seems that his thoughts have long been elsewhere than at Leicester. But what's more interesting is what happened to Ndidi, who at one point was standing the comparison with the star Conte, but this season ranks 48th among the league's defensive midfielders according to WhoScored. Compared to last summer, Transfermarkt has dropped the Nigerian's value by 28 million, although he's 26 years old, the prime of his career. Ndidi was great as a defensive midfielder, being great at tackling and interceptions. Such a fierce old-school player, and Rodgers began to plug holes in the squad with him. He even played him as a center-back. As a result, Ndidi lost his trademark functionality, and now even on his original position, he doesn't show what he could before. And expecting him to improve in terms of passing culture and ability to sharpen was in vain. He remained a narrow-profile defensive midfielder. In general, there will now be a forced transformation in Leicester, an unprofitable sale for the club. Ndidi has a year left on his contract, they'll give him away for pennies, and Tielemans will leave for free at the end of June. A sad end to the season. Manuel Neuer is at the spot number 3, not due to his on-field performance. It so happened that Neuer caused the team more problems off the field this season than he brought benefits playing. Neuer was in good form at the beginning of the season, showing his best save percentage in the Bundesliga in the last 6 years at 79.5%. He went to the World Cup as the main goalkeeper, and then went on vacation in the mountains where he broke his leg while skiing. This became one of the most significant events that ruined Bayern's season and one of the reasons why Neuer made it to our top today. After all, being a pro is not only about how you perform, but also how you behave off the pitch. The player bears full responsibility for the fact that because of his extreme sport hobby, the club had to look for a new goalkeeper during the season and spent 9 million. Moreover, as it turned out, the money was wasted. Sommer didn't fit into Bayern's game at all, was nervous, and had the worst save percentage in his 16-year-old career. But even being out of the game, Neuer didn't stop harming the team. The captain stirred up the trouble within the team, leading a camp of players who were against Nagelsmann. And in February, he gave an interview that was not coordinated with the club and was in the style of Ronaldo. Remember, there was a story that goalkeeper coach Toni Tapalovic was allegedly fired through Neuer because he leaked the internal information of the coaching staff to the team. Neuer denied this fact and spoke in an interview that the management had dealt a severe psychological blow to the goalkeepers and the team in general. In Germany, everyone was shocked by such an interview. Toxicity within Bayern began to escalate, and the locker room witnessed a final split into a for and against Nagelsmann. Although the matter was settled by fining Neuer, ultimately all this led to a hasty and counterproductive decision, the sacking of the coach in the middle of the season. In general, it seems that Neuer did everything possible to prevent Bayern from becoming the champion of Germany this time, but Borussia didn't want to accept such a gift. Harry Maguire takes second place. It's time to draw the bottom line. The most expensive defender in history is now worth even half of what was paid for him. Man United paid £87 million to Leicester in 2019, while his estimated value at the time was 50. And now Harry is valued at just 25 million. And even for that price, it's unlikely that anyone will buy him. He is a slow slaphead, a defender who feels comfortable only in a low block and remains a regular in the national team because Southgate has put out a specific style of football there. But in the super intensive Premier League, things are different. The football that Ten Hag has brought to United is entirely different, and there is no point in adapting to the strong qualities of an overpriced centre-back. Under the Dutch manager, United rarely resort to mass defense, and only in such situations does Harry feel comfortable. It's worth saying that in the game against West Ham during the 14th match day, when he was in the starting lineup, the defender highlighted the period when he had to defend openly in his post-match interview. I must say the last 30 minutes were really good, relentless from the lads, and great fight. After having the goal disallowed, we could have dropped our hats and sulked, but it was relentless and 3 good goals. Maguire was benched more than he played this season, and even the fans joke about it, saying that he tried very hard but couldn't bring an own goal. And troubles for United from their own player come all the time, as soon as Ten Hag relies on him. For example, United had all the odds to win the Europa League, but in the first quarterfinal game, Harry's own goal helped Sevilla secure an away draw. Then, in the second leg, Maguire gets caught in the pressing trap in the 8th minute, and the team concedes an early goal that essentially tears them apart. The result was their knockout from the tournament. If previously people just made fun of the defender, now he's being really bullied by the fans. And he deserves it. Look at the viral videos on TikTok. The Hayes sees that Harry is open and prefers to kick the ball out. The most expensive center back of the team, who started the season as a captain and was given a chance to start, became the worst. The main center back pair is now Martinez and Varane. Lindelof is on the bench, followed by Shaw as last option, and only then comes Maguire. And he also has a huge salary, so it's unclear what to do with him now. Selling him for a little money would mean admitting their transfer failure. Keeping him would mean continuing to pay his fat salary, and when they can't rely on anyone else, waiting for him to perform at any moment. It seems that United has another burden. And in first place is Mason Mount. Anyone from Chelsea could be put in our list. The one appealing is Edouard Mendy. Not too long ago, the world's best goalkeeper, according to FIFA, he started to regularly warm the bench and now seems to be a goalkeeper not even at the level of a top club, let alone the Premier League. But still, the club's homegrown talent and main hope of recent years, Mount, best embodies the degradation of the Blues this season. They expected him to lead the team forward during this turbulent period for the club. This season was supposed to be defining for the 24-year-old player. Either he would be the new Lampard, a leader for years to come, or just another overrated talent. Now everything seems to be heading towards the second option, and even towards Mount's departure from Chelsea. Of course, when there is a rebuild going on and already the third coach of the season comes in, any player can fail, but the midfielder is exactly the figure who should disguise all the chaos happening in the team. Such role was played by Bruno Fernandes in Man United during all this time, turning potentially failing seasons into decent ones. Mount didn't have enough individual skill to carry the problematic Chelsea on his shoulders. Being a noticeable figure when there was stability in the composition, now he's lost. It's as if he wasn't even there this season. He showed himself to be just as ineffective as Ferran Torres in Barcelona. Even the loan Felish and newly purchased Sterling showed flashes of good football and even brought results. But Mount didn't show anything, and in the spring he was out due to health problems. In a year, Mount's contract expires, and negotiations to renew it are difficult precisely because of the impression of the midfielder's game in recent months. The management doesn't want to accept the player's conditions, understanding that they're overestimated compared to the level he has shown this season. In the end, the Chelsea Academy graduate may end up in one of the competing clubs, even in Man United. And if that happens, it will be a new pain for the fans. The departure of a homegrown talent shows the chaos and the hopelessness that is happening in the club. Let us know who else you would put in the list, and if we did something wrong, don't hesitate to let us know down in the comments. And as usual, give this video a like and don't forget to subscribe. See you next week. Until then, know the ball.